Spongebob Squarepants has been on the air for 17 years. It is seriously one of the funniest cartoons to ever exist. SpongeBob has made us laugh and has definitely earned a special place in our hearts. But why is that? The characters, of course. SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, and all of the wacky citizens of Bikini Bottom have made the show what it is. But is it possible that these characters aren't entirely original? Could it be that all of the SpongeBob characters are based on the 7 deadly sins? Before we dive into this theory, let's start at the very beginning. What are the 7 deadly sins? The 7 deadly sins, or vices, come from Western religions, especially Catholicism and Christianity. They are intended to destroy the life or charity within a person because they are sinful things to participate in. Today, the 7 sins are known as pride, greed, sloth, envy, gluttony, wrath, and lust. But how do they relate to SpongeBob and his friends? Well, I will tell you. Sandy cheeks is pride. Pride is defined as the belief that one is essentially better than others. And it often includes excessive admiration of oneself and unjustified boasting. Sandy Cheeks will not let you forget that she is from Texas. And she also constantly belittles SpongeBob and Patrick because they are sea creatures and she is a land mammal. Especially in the season 2 episode Pressure, where Sandy, Mr. Krabs, Squidward, SpongeBob, and Patrick almost kill one another just to prove which one of them is better. So Sandy's pride takes over constantly, to the point where she puts her friends in serious danger just so she can prove a point. The next one is pretty obvious. Mr. Krabs is greed. Mr. Krabs is all about money. He is incredibly cheap and completely obsessed with making money. Patrick is sloth. Sloth can be defined as physical laziness or spiritual laziness. In this case, Patrick Star is both. He is actually an award-winning sloth. In the episode Big Pink Loser, Patrick won an award for doing nothing the longest. Plankton is envy. Envy is extreme jealousy or desire, and Plankton is literally green with it. He is so jealous of Mr. Krabs' success with the Krusty Krab, especially since his restaurant is a total failure. Plankton is constantly trying to sabotage Mr. Krabs and will stop at nothing to do so, just so he can be as successful as him. Up next, Gary is gluttony. This one actually took me by surprise because I thought Patrick would have been gluttony as well. But hear me out. It's a running gag throughout the show that SpongeBob is kind of always thinking about feeding Gary. And in the episode, Have You Seen This Snail?, he actually forgets to feed Gary for 10 days. And Gary runs away. Gluttony tends to refer to an overindulgence, especially when it comes to food. So I guess Gary's total reliance on SpongeBob for food makes him kind of gluttonous? Moving on, we have Squidward as wrath. Wrath is the feeling of rage or uncontrollable feelings of anger and hatred. Squidward is miserable. He hates his life, he hates his job, and most of all, he hates SpongeBob and Patrick.
Shut your half-wit pie holes!
And finally, SpongeBob is lust. In terms of these 7 deadly sins, lust is defined as excessive love for others. And SpongeBob exerts excessive amounts of love from every pore in his body, and he has a lot of them. SpongeBob adores every single fish, crustacean, and creature in Bikini Bottom, even if they don't necessarily love him back. We definitely have a lot to think about here. Could it be true that all the SpongeBob characters are actually inspired by the 7 deadly sins? It's incredibly hard to deny that these characters match the traditional 7 deadly sins almost perfectly. It's definitely an interesting concept. But is it possible that it was actually intentional? Well, yeah, actually. In the season 1 DVD commentary for the episode Plankton, Doug Lawrence, a writer on the show, mentions that each main character of the show is in fact based on the 7 deadly sins, which was a theme that show creator Steven Hellenberg actually wanted for the show. Now, I have a feeling at this point some of you are thinking, how could they incorporate something that sounds as dark as the 7 deadly sins into a kid's show? Well, it's not that SpongeBob SquarePants is actually about the 7 deadly sins. It's still about the adorably optimistic sponge and his wacky antics with his best friends in the sea, even if they are the result of radioactivity. So with the creator's confirmation, I have to give this SpongeBob 7 Deadly Sins conspiracy 5 Krabby Patties out of 5. In the comments, let me know what you guys thought of this conspiracy and whether or not you thought it was true the whole time. Also in the comments, leave us suggestions of any theories you'd like us to cover. Subscribe to channel Frederator, and I'll see you guys next week. I don't know about you guys, but occasionally on my days off, I like to cuddle up with my giant Totoro plushie and watch a beautiful Studio Ghibli movie. If you haven't heard of them, Studio Ghibli is a Japanese animation studio, well loved for their heartfelt storytelling, delightful characters, and their beautiful traditional Japanese animation. If you have a favorite Studio Ghibli movie, there is a very good chance that it was directed by the legendary Hayao Miyazaki. Miyazaki is an Academy Award-winning director known for movies like Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, Kiki's Delivery Service, Howl's Moving Castle, and most recently, The Wind Rises. And that's just the short list. There has been some speculation by fans that some of these movies are connected. And of course, we believe that this is true. Specifically with Princess Mononoke and My Neighbor Totoro. I know what you're thinking, these movies take place hundreds of years apart. How is this adorable, fuzzy, cuddly giant related to a girl raised by wolves? Could Princess Mononoke be a prequel to My Neighbor Totoro?